Emma Harris clutched the leash tighter as Charlie, the overly enthusiastic golden retriever, pulled her down the sidewalk toward their favorite coffee shop. Sunday mornings in downtown Seattle had become their special ritual over the past 6 months since she had adopted him from the shelter. The energetic dog had brought so much joy into her structured, sometimes lonely life as a marketing coordinator
Let's
at
review
Davidson
the
Technologies.
quarterly results.
The coffee shop was packed with the usual weekend crowd. Young professionals typing on laptops, families enjoying brunch, and couples sharing pastries while gazing into each other's eyes. Emma managed to navigate through the outdoor seating area, keeping Charlie close as they approached the entrance. She had promised herself a large caramel latte and a blueberry muffin as a reward for finishing the quarterly marketing report that had consumed her entire Saturday. Everything happened in slow motion yet impossibly fast. One moment Emma was reaching for the door handle, and the next, Charlie had spotted a squirrel darting across the patio. The leash slipped from her hand as the dog lunged forward with surprising strength, his golden for flying as he charged toward what he perceived as his new best friend. "Charlie, no!" Emma shouted, but it was too late. The man never saw it coming. Tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent, he was focused on his phone call while holding a large coffee. Charlie crashed into him with the force of 60 pounds of pure excitement, and the coffee went flying. It seemed to hang in the air for a heartbeat before splashing across the pristine suit, the white dress shirt, and even speckling his polished leather shoes. The man stumbled backward, his phone clattering to the ground. Charlie, completely oblivious to the disaster he had caused, proceeded to jump up and place his muddy paws on the man's chest, tail wagging furiously as if expecting praise for his excellent squirrel hunting skills. "Oh my God, I am so sorry." Emma rushed forward, grabbing Charlie's collar and pulling him back. "Charlie, down. Bad dog." The man stood frozen, arms slightly raised, staring down at his ruined suit with an expression somewhere between shock and restrained fury. Emma's eyes traveled up from the coffee stains to his face, and her breath caught in her throat. Even drenched in coffee and clearly annoyed, he was devastatingly handsome. Sharp jawline, striking blue eyes that were currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach flip, and dark hair that fell perfectly despite the chaos. "I'm so sorry," Emma repeated, setting down her purse and frantically pulling napkins from her bag. "Please let me help clean this up. I'll pay for the dry cleaning, or buy you a new suit, or whatever you need." Without thinking, she started dabbing at the coffee stains on his chest, her hands moving quickly across the expensive fabric. It took her a moment to realize what she was doing, that she was essentially touching a complete stranger's chest in the middle of a crowded coffee shop patio. Her hands stilled as heat rushed to her face. The man gently caught her wrists, his hands warm and firm. "I think you're making it worse," he said, his voice deep with a slight rasp that sent shivers down her spine. Emma looked up, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. She could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that mixed with the coffee scent. His blue eyes held hers for a long moment, and she saw his expression shift from irritation to something else, something that made her heart race even faster. "I'm really sorry," she whispered, stepping back quickly. "Charlie is still learning manners. I adopted him 6 months ago, and he gets excited around new people." The man released her wrists and bent to pick up his phone, checking it for damage. Charlie chose that moment to shake himself, sending droplets of the fountain water he had apparently run through earlier flying everywhere, including onto the already ruined suit. "Of course," the man muttered, but Emma caught the smallest hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Here," Emma pulled out a business card from her wallet with shaking hands. "This has my contact information. Please send me the dry cleaning bill, or the replacement cost, or whatever. I take full responsibility." The man took the card, his fingers brushing against hers briefly. He studied it for a moment, then looked back at her with an unreadable expression. "Emma Harris," he read aloud. "Marketing coordinator. Yes, that's me. And again, I'm truly sorry about your suit and your coffee and your morning." He tucked the card into his jacket pocket, which was somehow the only part of his outfit not covered in coffee. "It's fine," he said, though his tone suggested it was anything but fine. "Accidents happen." "They really don't usually happen with me," Emma said quickly. "I'm normally very responsible and organized and professional. This is completely out of character." "Is it?" He raised an eyebrow, and Emma couldn't tell if he was amused or skeptical. "Yes. I've never had Charlie crash into anyone before. Well, except for my neighbor Mrs. Patterson, but she's 80 and surprisingly sturdy." The man's lips twitched again, almost forming a smile. Good to know I'm in such distinguished company. Emma felt her face grow even hotter. Why couldn't she stop babbling? I should let you go. I'm sure you have somewhere important to be, and I've already ruined enough of your morning. Indeed. He glanced at his watch, which Emma noticed was a Rolex. Everything about him screamed money and power, from his suit to his bearing to the way he carried himself with quiet confidence. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Right, of course. Again, please contact me about the suit. He nodded once, gave Charlie a long look that the dog interpreted as an invitation for more attention, and then walked away toward a sleek black Mercedes parked nearby. Emma watched him go, noting the slight tension in his shoulders and the way he shook his head as he got into the car. Well, Charlie, Emma said, looking down at her dog who was now sitting perfectly, tail wagging as if he had done nothing wrong. We really messed up this time. The rest of Sunday passed in a blur of household chores and preparation for the work week ahead. Emma tried not to think about the handsome stranger with the ruined suit, but his face kept appearing in her mind. Those intense blue eyes, the way his hands had felt when he caught her wrists, the almost smile that had transformed his annoyed expression into something warmer. She checked her phone obsessively, half expecting a text or call about the dry cleaning, but nothing came. By Sunday evening, she had convinced herself that he had probably just thrown the card away and written off the suit as a loss. Men like that didn't need money from someone like her. Monday morning arrived with grey skies and the promise of rain. Emma spent extra time on her appearance, choosing her best navy dress and making sure her makeup was flawless. Davidson Technologies was announcing something big today. Her boss had sent a cryptic email on Friday about a major company announcement and mandatory attendance at the 10 a.m. meeting. The office buzzed with speculation as Emma arrived at 8:30. Her friend Jessica practically pounced on her the moment she walked through the door. Have you heard? Jessica whispered urgently, her eyes wide with excitement. Someone bought the company. A complete takeover. Robert is retiring early, and the new owner is coming in as CEO today. Emma's stomach dropped. Davidson Technologies had been her home for 4 years. She had worked her way up from assistant to coordinator, had built relationships with everyone from the mailroom staff to the senior executives. Change was terrifying. Do we know anything about the new owner? Emma asked, setting down her coffee and trying to calm her racing heart. Just that he's young, rich, and supposedly brilliant. Made his fortune in tech startups and now he's expanding into established companies. Trevor from accounting said he's ruthless in business. Emma groaned. Trevor was the office gossip and not particularly reliable. Still, the uncertainty made her anxious. The morning crawled by as everyone pretended to work while actually refreshing their email and chatting nervously. At 5 minutes to 10, Emma joined the crowd filing into the large conference room. The space was packed, every chair taken, with people standing along the walls. Robert, their soon-to-be former CEO, stood at the front looking genuinely happy despite the circumstances. Beside him stood a figure with his back turned, talking quietly on his phone. Thank you all for coming, Robert began, his warm voice carrying across the room. As you know, I've been thinking about retirement for a while now. When the opportunity came to sell to someone who truly understands this industry and has incredible vision for the future, I knew it was the right time. The figure turned around, and Emma's entire world tilted on its axis. It was him. The man from the coffee shop. The stranger whose suit Charlie had ruined. Those same intense blue eyes swept across the room and landed directly on her, widening slightly in recognition. Please welcome Blake Monroe, your new CEO and the future of Davidson Technologies. Emma couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only stare as Blake Monroe, billionaire entrepreneur and the man she had assaulted with coffee less than 24 hours ago, stepped forward with a confident smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, which were still fixed on her with an expression she couldn't decipher. This couldn't be happening. This absolutely could not be happening. But it was a Blake Monroe commanded attention effortlessly. As he stepped to the front of the conference room, every eye followed him. He had changed suits since yesterday, now wearing a perfectly tailored navy blue ensemble that made his eyes even more striking. Emma sank lower in her chair, hoping desperately to become invisible. Thank you, Robert, Blake said, his deep voice filling the room with natural authority. I'm excited to be here and to work with all of you. Davidson Technologies has built an impressive reputation over 20 years, and I have no intention of dismantling what works. However, we will be implementing new strategies to expand our market reach and increase innovation. He spoke for another 10 minutes about vision and goals, his presentation polished and compelling. Emma barely heard any of it. Her mind was racing with worst-case scenarios. Would he fire her out of spite? Would he think she had somehow known who he was and staged the coffee incident? Would he tell everyone about her clumsy dog and humiliate her in front of the entire company? Now, I'd like to hear from some of you, Blake continued. I want to understand what's working and what needs improvement. Let's start with marketing. Emma's heart stopped. Jessica elbowed her gently. Emma Harris is our marketing coordinator, Robert offered helpfully. She's done excellent work on our recent campaigns. Blake's eyes found her again, and this time there was definitely a glimmer of amusement in them. Ms. Harris, would you mind sharing your thoughts on our current marketing strategy? Emma stood on shaking legs, acutely aware that Blake was watching her every move. She cleared her throat and launched into her prepared analysis, grateful that she had over-prepared for this meeting. As she spoke about digital engagement metrics and brand positioning, she found her confidence returning. This was her area of expertise, where she felt comfortable and capable. Blake listened intently, occasionally nodding. When she finished, he asked several pointed questions that demonstrated he had actually been paying attention. The exchange was professional and productive, and Emma started to relax slightly. Maybe he would be able to separate the personal disaster from their professional relationship. The meeting concluded an hour later, and Emma tried to slip out quickly with the crowd. She made it 3 steps into the hallway before she heard her name. Ms. Harris, could I see you in my office? Blake's voice was polite but clearly a command, not a request. Emma's stomach knotted as she followed him to the corner office that had been Robert's until this morning. Blake gestured for her to sit in one of the leather chairs facing the massive desk while he closed the door. The silence stretched between them as Blake walked to the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Emma sat rigidly, her hands clasped in her lap, waiting for whatever was coming. So, Blake finally said, turning to face her. This is awkward. I'm so sorry, Emma blurted out. I had no idea who you were. Charlie really is usually better behaved, and I promise I'll pay for the suit, and I completely understand if you want to fire me, but I hope you believe that I'm actually very good at my job despite being a disaster in coffee shops. Blake held up a hand, and a genuine smile crossed his face. Breathe, Ms. Harris. Emma sucked in air, realizing she had delivered that entire speech without pausing. I'm not going to fire you, Blake continued, moving to sit on the edge of his desk rather than behind it. Your presentation today was impressive, and Robert has nothing but praise for your work. The coffee incident was an accident. An unfortunate, expensive accident, but an accident nonetheless. Thank you, Emma whispered, relief flooding through her. I really am sorry. I know. You apologized approximately 15 times yesterday. His eyes held that glimmer of amusement again. How is Charlie, by the way? The question surprised her. He's good. Completely unaware that he nearly destroyed my career before it even crossed paths with you officially. Blake laughed, a rich sound that made something warm bloom in Emma's chest. I actually like dogs. I had a golden retriever growing up named Duke. Charlie would love to meet Duke. Duke passed away 3 years ago. I travel too much for another dog right now. I'm sorry, Emma said softly, seeing genuine sadness flicker across his face. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and Emma became aware of the shift in atmosphere. Blake was looking at her differently now, not as the clumsy woman from the coffee shop or the nervous employee, but as something else. Someone he was genuinely interested in. Ms. Harris, he began. Emma. Please call me Emma. Emma, he repeated, and her name sounded different in his voice. I have a proposition for you. Her eyebrows rose. A professional proposition, he clarified quickly, though she caught the slight smile. I'm launching a new initiative to rebrand the company and expand our digital presence. I need someone who understands our current market position but can think creatively about where we're going. I'd like you to lead the project. Emma's mouth fell open. Me? But I'm just a coordinator. Surely someone more senior would be better suited. Your presentation today demonstrated exactly the kind of forward thinking I need. You're not constrained by how things have always been done. Blake leaned forward slightly. Unless you don't think you can handle working closely with me. There was a challenge in his tone, and Emma recognized it for what it was. He was testing her, seeing if she would back down. "I can handle it," she said firmly, meeting his gaze. "When do we start?" "Excellent. We'll have our first planning meeting tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. here." Emma stood, feeling both exhilarated and terrified. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, but working closely with Blake Monroe would be dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with her career. As if reading her thoughts, Blake stood as well, moving closer. "Emma, I should probably mention that despite our unconventional first meeting, I am looking forward to getting to know you better. Professionally, of course." The way he said professionally suggested it was anything but. Emma's heart raced as she nodded and hurried out of the office, feeling his eyes on her until she turned the corner. The next 2 weeks were intense. Emma threw herself into the rebranding project, working late hours and collaborating closely with Blake. He was brilliant and demanding, pushing her to think bigger and take risks. The meetings often ran long, filled with heated debates about strategy and vision that left Emma energized and frustrated in equal measure. But it was the quiet moments that undid her. When Blake brought her coffee during late nights, remembering exactly how she liked it. When his hand would brush hers as they reached for the same document. When she would catch him watching her with an expression that made her skin tingle. The office noticed. Jessica pulled Emma aside one afternoon with worried eyes. "People are talking," she said gently. "About you and Blake." "There's nothing to talk about," Emma protested. "We're working on a project." "Emma, he looks at you like you're the only person in the room. And Trevor has been spreading rumors that you're sleeping with the boss to get ahead." Anger flashed through Emma. Trevor had always resented her success, but this was crossing a line. "That's ridiculous. I've never even been alone with Blake outside of work meetings." "I know that, and anyone who actually knows you knows that. But Trevor is poisoning people's minds." The situation came to a head during a department meeting the following Monday. Emma was presenting the preliminary rebranding concepts when Trevor interrupted. "I'm sure these ideas are great," he said with false sweetness. "Though I have to wonder if they're being judged on merit or on other factors." The room went silent. Emma felt her face burn as several people shifted uncomfortably. "What exactly are you implying, Trevor?" Blake's voice cut through the tension like ice. "Nothing, sir. Just that some people seem to get special treatment around here." Blake stood slowly, and Emma recognized the dangerous calm in his posture. This was the ruthless businessman Jessica had mentioned. "Let me be very clear," Blake said, his voice deadly quiet. "Emma Harris is leading this project because she's the most qualified person for it. Her ideas have already impressed our board of directors and secured preliminary approval for a budget increase. If anyone in this room has a problem with merit-based advancement, you're welcome to submit your resignation." He turned to Trevor specifically. "And if I hear one more word of speculation about any's personal life, regardless of who it's about, you will be terminated for creating a hostile work environment. Are we clear?" Trevor nodded, pale-faced. The meeting continued, but Emma felt sick. Blake had defended her, but he had also made everything worse. Now everyone would really think they were involved. After the meeting, she cornered Blake in the hallway. "You shouldn't have done that," she said urgently. "Now everyone definitely thinks something is going on. Let them think what they want. I won't allow anyone to disrespect you. Blake, you don't understand. I've worked so hard to be taken seriously here. If people think I'm only successful because of you, then they're idiots," Blake interrupted. "Emma, you're brilliant. Anyone who actually looks at your work can see that. But they're not looking at my work. They're looking at us." Blake stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Would it be so terrible if there was an us to look at?" Emma's breath caught. "Blake, we can't. I work for you. It would be completely inappropriate." "Says who?" "Says basic professional ethics. Says the power dynamic that makes any relationship between us inherently problematic. Says my career that I don't want to destroy." Blake ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "So what, we just ignore this? Pretend there's nothing between us?" "There's nothing between us," Emma said, trying to convince herself as much as him. "There can't be." She walked away before he could respond, before she could see the hurt in his eyes, before she could change her mind and do something reckless like kiss him in the middle of the office hallway. Emma spent the next week avoiding Blake as much as possible while still completing her work. She submitted reports via email, sent Jessica to meetings in her place when possible, and worked from home twice under the guise of needing quiet time to focus. It was cowardly and she knew it, but she didn't trust herself around him. Blake, for his part, seemed to respect her distance while making it clear he wasn't happy about it. His emails were professional but curt. The few times they had to interact in person, his expression was carefully neutral, but she could see the frustration simmering beneath the surface. Friday evening found Emma alone in the office, most of the building emptied for the weekend. She needed to finalize the presentation for the board meeting on Monday, and the quiet helped her concentrate. Rain had started falling around 6, a typical Seattle downpour that drummed against the windows. She was so focused on her work that she didn't hear the footsteps until Blake appeared in her doorway. "You're working late," he observed, leaning against the frame. Emma's heart jumped. "The presentation needs to be perfect." "It's already perfect. You've revised it 4 times. Practice makes perfect." Blake stepped into her office, closing the door behind him. "Emma, we need to talk." "I'm busy." "Emma." His voice was firm but gentle. "Look at me." She forced herself to meet his eyes, and the intensity there nearly undid her resolve. "This needs to stop," Blake said. "The avoiding me, the pretending nothing exists between us. I can't do it anymore." "Blake, please don't make this harder than it already is." "Harder for who?" "You're the one making it complicated." "Because it is complicated." Emma stood, frustrated. "You're my boss. I can't just throw away everything I've worked for because of some attraction." "Some attraction?" Blake moved closer. "Is that really all this is to you?" Emma wanted to lie, to protect herself, but she couldn't. "No," she whispered. "But it doesn't matter what it is. The situation hasn't changed." "What if I change the situation?" "What do you mean?" Blake took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about this constantly. I could transfer you to a different department, eliminate the direct reporting relationship. Or I could step back from daily operations, bring in a COO to manage staff. There are ways to make this work if you're willing to try." Emma stared at him, stunned. "You would restructure the entire company for me?" "I would do a lot more than that for you, Emma." Blake closed the remaining distance between them. "I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that ridiculous coffee incident. And it's not just attraction. I love how passionate you get about marketing strategies. I love how you defend your ideas but remain open to feedback. I love that you adopted a chaotic dog because you needed someone. I love your laugh, your mind, your heart." Thunder cracked outside, and rain lashed against the windows. Emma felt her defenses crumbling. "I'm falling in love with you," Blake said simply. "And I think you feel something too, even if you're scared to admit it." "Of course I'm scared," Emma said, her voice breaking. "What if this doesn't work? What if we try and fail and then everything is ruined? My job, my reputation, everything. What if it does work?" Blake countered. "What if we could have something real?" He reached up and gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Emma leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. "I'm so scared," she whispered. "I know. But Emma, some things are worth the risk." She opened her eyes and found him watching her with such tenderness that her last defenses shattered. "Kiss me," she breathed. Blake didn't need to be asked twice. He pulled her close and kissed her with a passion that had been building for weeks. Emma melted against him, her hands fisting in his shirt as she kissed him back with equal fervor. It was nothing like she had imagined and everything she needed, desperate and sweet and perfect. They broke apart breathless, foreheads pressed together. "We'll figure it out," Blake murmured. "Together." Emma was about to respond when the office door flew open. Trevor stood there with his phone out, clearly having taken photos. "This is perfect," Trevor said with a nasty smile. "The board will love hearing about this." Blake's entire demeanor changed. He stepped in front of Emma protectively, his voice dropping to a deadly calm. "What do you want, Trevor?" "I want what she got. A promotion, a raise, special project assignments. Or these photos go to the board and HR." Emma felt sick, but Blake laughed without humor. Go ahead. Send them. Trevor blinked, confused. What? Send the photos to the board. In fact, let me help you. Blake pulled out his own phone. I'll add them all to a group text right now. We can tell them together. Blake, what are you doing? Emma whispered. Calling his bluff. Blake's eyes never left Trevor. Because here's what's going to happen, Trevor. You're going to send those photos, and I'm going to tell the board that Emma and I have developed feelings for each other. I'll explain that we plan to restructure the reporting relationship to eliminate any conflicts of interest. I'll show them Emma's work and let it speak for itself. And then I'll mention that you've been sexually harassing Emma and spreading malicious rumors for weeks, which multiple witnesses can confirm. Trevor paled. I haven't harassed anyone. No. Making inappropriate comments about her appearance. Spreading rumors about her sleeping her way to success. Creating a hostile work environment. I've been documenting everything, Trevor. I was waiting for the right moment to take it to HR, but you've just accelerated the timeline. Emma grabbed Blake's arm, amazed and touched by his defense of her. Get out, Blake said coldly. And when you come in Monday, report directly to HR. You're suspended pending investigation. Trevor fled, and silence filled the office. Emma stared at Blake in wonder. You were documenting everything. Of course. I wasn't going to let him hurt you. Blake took her hands. Emma, I meant what I said. I'll be completely transparent with the board. We'll do this the right way. You really would risk everything for me. You're not everything to risk. You're everything to fight for. Emma launched herself at him, kissing him again. When they finally broke apart, she was smiling. I'm falling in love with you too, she admitted. Even though you're stubborn and overprotective and completely crazy. Takes one to know one, Blake teased. The following Monday, Blake addressed the board directly. He explained his feelings for Emma, outlined the structural changes to eliminate conflicts of interest, and presented her work as evidence of her merit. The board, after much discussion, approved the relationship with stipulations about oversight and transparency. Trevor was fired after the HR investigation confirmed multiple complaints. Several of Emma's colleagues, including Jessica, had come forward with their own experiences of his harassment. 3 months later, Emma sat in her new office, now Director of Marketing and Innovation, reporting to the new CEO Blake had hired. The restructuring had been smoother than expected, and her work continued to impress everyone who saw it. Blake appeared in her doorway with 2 coffee cups, just like he did every morning. Thought you might need this, he said, setting one on her desk. You're spoiling me. That's the plan. Blake closed the door and pulled her into a quick kiss. Dinner tonight. Can't. I have to take Charlie to the vet for his checkup. I'll come with you. Charlie and I are friends now. Emma laughed. He did bring us together in his own chaotic way. Remind me to buy him the biggest dog bone I can find. 6 months after that, Blake proposed during a walk in the park where Charlie had first crashed into him. The dog wore a bow tie and carried the ring box in a special pouch attached to his collar. Emma said yes before Blake even finished asking. Their wedding was small and intimate, held in a garden with close friends and family. Charlie served as ring bearer and behaved perfectly, as if he knew this was his moment to shine. During the reception, Blake's best man mentioned the coffee shop incident in his toast, and everyone laughed. You know, Emma said that night as they slow danced, I never did pay you back for that suit. Blake grinned. Best investment I never made. That ruined suit led me to you. Charlie led you to me. Then we owe everything to one very enthusiastic golden retriever with terrible timing. Emma looked across the dance floor where Charlie was begging for cake scraps from Jessica. Best accident of my life. Mine too, Blake agreed, kissing her softly. Mine too. As the evening wound down and they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Emma reflected on how dramatically her life had changed from that chaotic Sunday morning. She had found love in the most unexpected place, with the most unexpected person, all because of a spilled coffee and a dog who didn't understand personal space. Sometimes the best things in life came from the most disastrous beginnings. Sometimes taking a risk, facing your fears, and opening your heart led to happiness beyond imagination. And sometimes, just sometimes, the handsome stranger whose suit your dog ruined turned out to be the love of your life. Emma smiled as Blake helped her into the car, Charlie settled happily in the back seat between them. Their story had begun with chaos and collision, but it would continue with love, partnership, and adventure. And she wouldn't change a single moment of it.